Just up the street from here is the North Carolina Museum of History. How many of you have ever been there? Great. It's a fantastic place to learn about all things North Carolina. I especially like going there in the month of March because that's Women's History Month. When you go in there, there is this amazing display about women in this state have done. And there's a timeline. And lo and behold, there's a mark on that timeline that says, Elaine Marshall, Secretary of State, first woman elected to executive branch office. Well, I have to say that's humbling, that's inspirational. But I know what we as a state have had to overcome to make major achievements and what we as women have had to overcome to make progress in our own lives. Now, we've made a lot of progress in the last few decades, but quite honestly, it's not nearly as much as I would have liked, and it's not nearly as fast as I would have liked. But it's pretty cool being the answer to a trivia contest. But my road to get there was not straight and narrow. It was bumpy. There are some of you in this audience that know me. And so those of you that know me know that life has thrown me a number of hard knocks. I grew up in rural Maryland on a farm. 4-H was absolutely everything to me. My career goal was to be a 4-H agent, and I've actually never been an agent, but I am a lifetime 4-H supporter and a person giving back. My mother was born before women had the right to vote anywhere in this country. My family's not political at all. They stressed the importance of voting, but there was nothing more than that. And now their daughter is that mark on that timeline, the first in a state she did not grow up in to do something. I have always tried to make progress in my life. It has been a lifetime mantra for me to always keep moving forward. I came to North Carolina with a fresh, brand new degree in textiles and clothing, and I became a public school teacher further east of here in Lenoir County. My love of textiles caused me then to open up a brick-and-mortar decorating shop. Well, I don't know if you know it, but decorating is a seasonal business. It really is. Everybody wants their place fixed up for the holidays, and they wait till the last minute, but the decorator has better be ahead of it. So I knew I needed a line of credit for the coming year. This was in the summertime. I made an appointment and went to the bank to ask for a loan. The banker came out of the office and said, "Where's your husband?" I said, "Well, it's obvious he's not here." He said, "Come back tomorrow and bring him." Well, frustratedly, I went out the door and I was just gobsmacked at what I was asked. But I came back that next day, brought him along. We went into the banker's room, and the conversation and the eye contact was between my husband and that banker. And I'm thinking, what am I, a potted plant over here? The conversation went on. If there were any questions really about the business, I was the one that had to answer them. So I'm fuming inside. I got the loan, by the way. Fuming inside, thinking, if this loan's going to be repaid, it's due to my hard work and creativity. He's not in the business. After all, he didn't know the difference between burlap and pot de soie. Later on, I decided I needed a change in my life. That was when I decided I wanted to go to law school. Now, a textiles degree from college and going to law school, that's a quantum leap. I never did anything in my life that I wasn't reasonably confident that I could achieve, but law school was it. I studied like I never studied before, passed the bar on the first sitting, thrilled to do that, and became a practicing lawyer in the county seat of Harnett County, Lillington. In fact, I did trial work and other women did not do trial work, so I was a novelty in the courtroom. People would come to see me try cases. I became known as Lady Lawyer Lillington. The post office got mail like that, put it in my box, I opened it up, and lo and behold, it said, "Dear Miss Elaine." So obviously it was for me. While I was practicing law, I had a desire to do something more for myself in the line of public policy and public service. Now, you have to understand Harnett County. It's only about an hour from here. It is rural. Back then, it was very slow, no stress in life, and it was just wonderful. If you're thinking we had bright lights, that was only the bug zappers under the carports in the summertime. But as I wanted to do more and get involved in civic activities, I found I wasn't making very much progress. And I tried to figure out what was the problem. And I concluded it was that I had a double whammy as a rural woman. I was from a place that nobody heard of ever, and I had a voice of a gender that no one paid attention to. I didn't let that deter me. I continued with statewide activities and community activities. I kept persevering. To make sure that I could make progress going forward. Because you see, there was no playbook. There was no other woman that had attempted that from a rural area in this state. I want to tell you all to never fear being first. Somebody's got to do it. Why not you? Why not you? And why not you over here? Somebody's got to be first. Never have that fear. Failure is better than living regret in your lifetime. I take my own advice. In 1996, I decided there was an opening for Secretary of State. And I thought I could do this. This was after having been elected to the North Carolina Senate and having lost the very next election. And what a doozy I lost. If any of you followed this back then, on election night, I'd lost my seat by 10 votes. On canvass, it was down to 8 votes, followed by a machine recount and a hand recount, which ended up in a dead-even tie. Folks, there's something worse than losing a race, that's tying a race. Because we had to have another race some 90 days later when nobody was paying attention to any kind of politics at that time, which I lost. But you know what I did? I went and filed for Secretary of State anyway, because it was after the News and Observer had called me Rookie of the Year in my first session in the Senate, the one to watch, setting herself up for a great career in public service. Well, I still had that motivation. So I ran for Secretary of State. It was a difficult race. People said a woman couldn't do it. I said, you just watch. And so there was a 5-person primary, and then I had a general election where my opponent was so much better known than I was. And I won. You talk about a breaking the glass ceiling moment. That was it. And even today, women come up to me and say, thank you for what you've done. Thank you for breaking the glass ceiling. Thank you for inspiring me to do a little more in my life. This is absolutely true. Just this week, 2 women, independent occurrences, did that and also at the same time said, I'd like you to meet my daughter. And then them tell her daughter, this is somebody important in North Carolina. That's pretty inspiring, folks. But how did I win? That's a good question. As a practicing lawyer, I had used the Secretary of State's office. I knew all of the things that were broke. The morale was low. Customer service was terrible. Folks couldn't get information. It was just, by late 1990 terms, it was a very archaic office. So I went out in the campaign trail and I said, I'm going to fix this. I'm going to work very hard to make sure this all gets done. That's my plan. Well, once you win the election, you have to do it. I was facing a great achievement or being the next ex-Secretary of State if I didn't. So I got together the best computer whizzes. I set up my vision for them, which was to have a database that the folks could use more interactively. It was going to make customer service easier. It was going to make our internal functions a lot easier. And morale would go up in the agency because we'd have happier people on both sides of the equation, and life was going to be good. Well, that's a real shorthand version. We bet the farm. We put all our money to get the best computer whizzes together and stayed on top of them to make sure they stayed with the vision that I had. Now, there were obstacles everywhere along the way, but I am not one that's going to let those obstacles keep me from moving forward. We found ways to get around them. I've always viewed stumbling blocks as an opportunity to do better, to turn them over and turn them into stepping stones. So that project ended up being held out as the model for government interaction with citizens across the country. I was even a cover story at some tech magazines. I went from zero to hero to our users, and life has been pretty good ever since then, although you got to keep tech stuff up. The entrepreneurial spirit, I had it in starting my business, but the entrepreneurial spirit is where people are looking to the future. We work with entrepreneurs at the Secretary of State's office. Entrepreneurs are looking at the end game, not the game just played. And I've tried to model that. It's true whether it's in sports or the game of life. Keep concentrating on your objective. My philosophy is that I've refused to let those stumbling blocks bring an end to my career. I'm going to find a way to turn them into something important, meaningful. Each of us will have our own story. We all travel a different personal journey. Whether you're a public school teacher, whether you are a business owner, whether you try cases, or whether you become a public servant, as I have now for this last part of my lifetime, the goal is always to make progress, always to pitch forward. Now, I will have to tell you that being first sometimes is a very isolating experience because there are no other voices out there. I will admit that challenge. But again, never fear being first. Somebody's got to do it. Somebody in this audience can do it. So just get at it and do it. We're here in the shadow of North Carolina State University. The late, great Jim Valvano taught us and the world a message, and it was real simple. Don't ever, ever give up, as he fought cancer. Now, my favorite basketball coach is the women's coach, Kay Yao, who said, when life kicks you, let it kick you forward. Whether it's in the sports arena or whether it's the game of life, that is always the attitude to have. Now, what did Kay really mean? She really meant make an opportunity out of everything, out of anything. Take those ugly obstacles out there, turn them over, figure out how to do something positive with it. Take those stumbling blocks and turn them into something real positive, because it's attitude that makes the difference. The attitude makes the difference between stumbling blocks and stepping stones. It's up to you. Thank you.